Um, I just want to talk about something very interesting. Over the week, a lot of things, and over the weekend, the past weekend, a lot of things has happened, and it kind of, like brings us back to, you know, what should I would say it kind of brings us back to the realization that as Africans, what is happening in the world, or some of the conflicts happening in the world, how can we as Africans take advantage of it? So, one of the areas or one of the things that I want to talk about is the US China trade tariffs and conflicts and, you know, ongoing trade, negotiations between countries, increasing, decreasing tariffs and all of that. So, um, sorry. We also saw the U.S., splashing a huge tariff on, Chinese manufacturers and Chinese imported goods, services, and all of that. And of course, China would not sit and allow the U.S. to bully them. We all know, right? So let's call a spade a spade. And China started exposing how luxury brands, come to China, produce at a way cheaper price, and sell at an extreme premium price. Now, if Africa as a continent with more than 30 countries, more than 40 countries, more than 50 countries, if we can take advantage of what is going on in the world to be self-productive, self-reliant, trust me, while they are fighting, while they are busy, you know, uh, splashing each other with huge tariffs, at the end of the day, what do? We sit, take a cup of tea, take a cup of coffee, eat some, good food, sit under the trees, and tell our kids the stories of how, self-reliant, how self-sufficient as Africans we are, right? Now, the U.S.-China trade war is not a thing which started today. It didn't start today. We all know. I mean, if you're heavily involved into politics or you follow, global or geopolitics, you would know that the U.S. and the Chinese have been always going back and forth. Sorry, back and forth with trade issues, all the way to social media. TikTok, was supposed to be banned in the U.S. Um, Huawei, iPhone is produced in it's made in California, assembled or produced in China. You know, the US can never do without the Chinese market. The Europe or Eurasia can never do without the Chinese market. The African continent cannot do without the Chinese market, right? But guess what? If everybody is relying on one person, what does that make? What does that tell you? What does that, what impression does it create? What are the advantages versus the disadvantages, right? So, the US, Chinese war on, trade, tariffs, deficits, name it. It's a wake up call to us as Africans to wake up and start taking way better initiatives to try to, build something for ourselves, to try to not sell ourselves to the world, but at the end of the day, when we are self sufficient, when we can produce what we consume, we wouldn't need anyone to tell us, no, I will charge you X amount for exporting to my country. If there is a need, if there is a high demand, you don't get to dictate to me how much you are going to charge me, right? So if I am producing locally, then yes, to an extent, I can say, no, I already have production ongoing. My productions are, within X number of cost, or it's not above, a certain cost. So if you are exporting to my country, then you don't have to what skyrocket, or your products cannot be sold at certain prices, right? Now, with that said, I am not saying that the Chinese manufacturers are the ones selling the LV, Gucci, Prada, and the luxury brands, right? But at the end of the day, these brands are what using Chinese manufacturers, Chinese laborers, Chinese engineers, Chinese architects, Chinese resources to what build, assemble, import, and sell some of their products, right? So there is no way a product would be manufactured in China and it wouldn't gain a Chinese market share. It's almost impossible with some of these luxury big brands, which are globally known. So it's a wake-up call for us as Africans, with what is happening within the Western world, how tier one countries like the US, Russia, China, Europe, they are bullying themselves. It's a wake-up call for us to see if these guys are fighting, if these guys are disagreeing, let's stay on our side, do our thing for the interest of our own people. Africa needs a lot of industries. Africa needs a lot of manufacturing. Africa needs a lot of production. Africa has already the population to consume whatever it produces or manufactures. Right? We don't necessarily need the global market to consume what we produce in Africa. Whatever we produce in Africa is already having a market demand. How many people or how many countries export to China for consumption? Worst case scenario, the majority of times when you see countries exporting, natural mineral resources to China, these are meant for what? Factories. These are meant for productions and whatnot. I barely think that the Chinese economy imports to feed on. How in Africa we import to feed on, right? It doesn't mean that the Chinese doesn't import, foreign-based product, but when you compare the ratio of, consumption on foreign imported products versus the ratio of consumption and the ratio of demand for Chinese manufactured products, the gap is obviously like way visible. The gap is is something that you don't need rocket science to tell you. So I believe what is happening right now should be another set of reminder, another set of a wake-up call that African politicians, African leaders should create the ecosystem to allow foreign investors, to allow locally grown, brands, investors, to allow production of whatever that we import, right? We might not have all it takes to import everything. So I was watching an interview. It was a short clip interview of why some of the reasons why Apple is being assembled or produced in China. And I forgot the name of the person, but I think he's one of the CEOs or COO or CTO. I forgot his exact position. And he said that it's not about the cheap labor. But of course, we understand that the cheap labor is an aspect, right? But I'm quoting him, not word to word, but he said, when you go to China, it's easy for you to assemble a team of engineers. If you call a town hall meeting for engineers, right, detailing engineers, you will find lots and loads of engineers compared to the United States. So China has a certain type of skill set, a certain type of dedication that makes it much easier for them to outsource production, makes it much easier for them to outsource assembly, make it much easier for them to outsource certain technicality and detailing of products which they cannot find in the United States, right? So it means that China has developed a certain type of resources that no matter what country you are, you always need that resources. So that tells you that no country is an island, no country can live on their own, no country can survive on their own without the other. Maybe if we had only one country, yes, on earth, then yes, of course, then we don't need any other person, right? But so long as we have diversity on this earth, we have different continents, we have different nationalities, different ethnicities, different races, we always need each other to build a better civilization for tomorrow. So that means there is always a codependency in one industry, one sector, one area or the other. So for me, like I said, it's a wake-up call for African leaders to, you know, it's not like they don't know what to do. They know, but sometimes they refuse to, do what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, some of us who love Africa, with our dear heart, we have to what, speak up. So tomorrow, I have lent my voice to, a positive contribution towards Africa, right? So some African leaders should, take advantage of these trade wars which are going on towards encourage local production, right? Um, there are few African countries which are still being controlled by a lot of Western influence, if not all. But at the end of the day, there are areas, there are sectors that not not their paymasters or the Western influence can stop them from what developing. So um, I know that when Africa starts producing, the West thinks that they will lose, they will become inferior, they will become consumers, they will go down on the food chain, go down on the ladder, and all of that. But the history of Africa has never, you know, um, the history of Africa has never portrayed Africa in that sense. So even when you go back in history, we all know that Africa civilized Europe, right? So we did not civilize Europe based on war. We did not civilize Europe based on slavery and all of that. So Africa doesn't have the history of, oh, we have the power, so we are going to bully the entire world, or we are going to bully an entire continent. No, we don't have. This is exactly what I'm trying to explain. So um, some African leaders should take this as a wake-up call, as a wake-up reminder that look, you are empowered to serve your people. So it means that you have to, do everything possible for your citizens, and be self-reliant, self-sufficient, produce, produce. I know there are lots of African countries which are doing productions, right, manufacturing, but it is not enough. If we are importing up to 80% and we are producing only maybe 1 or 2%, then there is still a lot to be done. So today, this is my little contribution with what has been happening over the week regarding the China-US trade conflicts, tariffs, and all of that. So African leaders, if you're watching, let this be a wake-up call to you. Do something for your people. You love your people. You claim to love your people. You claim that the people voted you into power. Show them. Show the people. Don't let the people chase after you, right? So peace.